check it.
Okay. Okay.
Okay, guys. So we started with understanding what is storage account. Then we'll understand what is the difference between a data lake storage and a blob storage. Then we understood what is link service and integration runtime. How many types of integration runtimes are there, right? And what is link service, right? All of this we have understood. And then we understood what is copy data activity in a detailed fashion in the past class. So today what we will understand. Yeah, so we understood how to do this part to move the data from source to blob storage. Today we will understand how to move the data from the blob storage to SQL Server. Here Azure Synapse is written, but we'll understand how to move data to Azure SQL Server, a simple copy, like one data copy, right? How to do it. So to do that, first of all, we need a SQL Server and SQL database in Azure Cloud. Then only you can move the data, right, from here to here. So we will try to create a SQL Server and also a SQL database in Azure Cloud, and then we will understand how to do the copy operation. Okay, that we will understand after that. So the today's agenda is to create a SQL Server, Azure SQL Server, Cloud SQL Server, and also create a SQL database, and then use a copy data activity to perform this operation, blob to SQL Server operation, then perform this operation. We'll do that, right? So let's do one by one. So I will go to data factory. We'll open this. No, so first of all, we need to make a SQL server. So I am going to make a SQL server, Azure SQL. Sorry. Who joined with the name Bruce today?
Sorry, that's Carol. Sorry, I had to.
Okay, fine.
I wasn't able to rename it.
Yeah, no problem. So yeah, so I will give the name here, which is like, so I am giving the server name. So all the settings are default. What are the things I have done? I just given the subscription name or resource group name, as I know, as we know that a particular resource should belong to a subscription, a resource group. Then a server name, then a location, in which location I need to make a server. Then I will use a SQL authentication, right? So just a way how you want to log into the SQL server. So I am using a SQL authentication to log in, because I don't want to configure the intra ID, and like we are not going into those details, right? So I'm just using a simple SQL authentication and giving the ID and password. Okay. So whenever you give this SQL ID and password, note down the SQL ID and password, right? And then create your account. And then hit create and create a SQL server. Okay, I'm not creating it right now because I do have a SQL server with me. Okay, but this is how you can create it. Type SQL server here, type your subscription, select your resource group, give your server name, select the location, and then use SQL authentication, give your ID and password, and then review and create. Okay, so this is how you can create a SQL server. And I think we all know about what is SQL server, what is SQL database, and what is SSMS, right? We are all clear about it, but let me explain that as well. So we first need to create a SQL server, and inside a SQL server, you can create multiple SQL databases. Okay, inside a SQL server, we can create multiple SQL databases. So currently, we are creating a SQL server right now. And inside the SQL server, we will create multiple SQL database, which is DB1, DB2, DB3, DB4, right? We can create multiple SQL databases. And then you have a SSMS SQL Server Management Studio to connect with this SQL Server, right? You have a SSMS as a tool. So this is a SSMS as a tool which you can use to connect with the SQL Server. So SSMS will help you to connect with your on-premise SQL database, and SSMS, through SSMS you can connect with the cloud SQL database as well, right? That also you can do. So that's the SQL database which you are creating in the cloud. You can use the same SSMS which you have installed in your machine and then connect with the cloud database as well. Just like suppose if you have a Netflix software, then in the Netflix you are able to watch the movies in the cloud, right? So it is not there in your local. But suppose Netflix has a feature to play the movies which is there in your devices. Well, it has an extra feature in which you can use Netflix as a player, just like a VLC media player, and then watch those movies. So SSMS is just like that. You can watch the you can basically access the cloud databases as well, and also you can access your on-premise SQL databases as well, right? Now we install the server, and now I will create a SQL database. So what I will do now, I'm not here. You can hit review and create and then create it. I'm not creating it because I do have a SQL server which I will use. Yeah, this is my SQL server. Okay. Now I will go to SQL database and I will create SQL database. I selected the server here, right? Like the server which I have created just now, you can select that server because I am creating a SQL database in that server. So first we created a server, now I am creating a database, right? So you can select the server which you want to use, right? And every setting will be by default after that. Okay, you don't need to change anything. You need to go to configure SQL database. Very important step if you're using a free subscription. Okay, so if you don't pay attention to this step, your all the free credits will be gone. So please pay attention. So you can go to configure SQL database and then select the basic version. Okay. If you select the basic version, then you are creating a SQL database, not so costly SQL database, right? So if you just use some sort of like general purpose SQL database, then it will be much costly. So use the basic version of SQL database. And also don't create a SQL database in the command, right? So in the SQL server itself, don't write create database. Those sort of command, don't write it because it is by default create a general purpose SQL database. So create a SQL database from here itself, and always create a basic version of SQL database. Okay, because we are just practicing right now. You don't need a higher version of SQL database, right? So click apply, very important step, and we will not touch anything. We'll just go with the by default setting. Okay, here we will select sample because we want to get some sample data to practice. That is why here we will select the sample, and rest of the setting is by default. We will not change anything, right? Okay, and then hit create. Okay, I'm not creating it right now because I do have a SQL database, so I'm not creating it, but this is how you can create it. Okay, first create a SQL server and then create a SQL database. Any confusion on creating SQL server and SQL database, guys?
I'm good, Abhishek.
Okay, so this is how you can create it. Now to log into SQL database, what you can do is you can either use SSMS. In the SSMS, you can go and then you can type all of these details, which is like server name, server name, and then you can choose SQL authentication and then write your ID and password which you have given to log into this database, right? That you can do in your SSMS. And you can also log in from this query editor, but it's not so user friendly. Okay, so you can also log in from here. You can also log in here from here and then you're able to see all of this, right? Sometimes you might get error, like you will definitely get error because I have allowed the firewall properties in my SQL server. Okay, so I will tell you from where you can allow that firewall property. So you can go to SQL server, you can open the SQL server, go to networking, and here I have allowed this firewall setting. If I remove this firewall setting, for example, and I go to my SQL database, open the SQL database, select this query editor, type the password here. Okay, so see, this is the error I am getting, right? What is this error? This error is saying that your IP is not allowed. So every computer has an IP address. So my computer also has an IP address. So this is my IP address, right? So 87.168.218.75. So they are saying the same thing, 87.168.218.75 IP address we need to allow. So either you can go to that SQL server and then allow this IP so that, so if I click over here, right, allow IP on server SQL pool ellipse. It's updating the firewall rule and then you can click OK and then you can log in. Okay. So if you go here, you will see same sort of IP is allowed now in the SQL server. If I go to SQL server, I click over here, I go to networking. See this IP they have allowed, right, to basically log into that SQL server. Either you can allow your own IP or you can allow all the developers IP here so that all the developers can log in. I am creating a firewall rule right now because suppose if you create a link service now, right, link service to connect to this SQL server, then again you will get some sort of firewall issue because link service might be reaching to this particular SQL server with a different IP. Okay, it can happen. So you need to allow that IP as well in that case. Okay, so just to remove all sort of like IP related errors, I am allowing all the IP right now so that I don't get those errors. Okay, but generally in the company you don't allow it. Okay, you just allowed the whitelisted IP, but I am allowing all the IP. if I allow this IP, then all the people can log into the SQL server. Okay. So I'm allowing all IP. So in this range, all the IP comes. My IP, your IP, all the IP comes. So I am allowing all the IP right now here. Okay. So we create a SQL server, we create a SQL database, and also we allowed all the IP, and then we can log into the SQL databases as well, right? Now what I will do, I will go to data factory and then create a link service. Because to do this operation, to move the data from blob to SQL server as well, you need a link, right? So you need a link service for the blob storage. We already know how to make a link service to blob storage. We also need the link to the SQL server. Then only we can do the movement. So we will now make the link service for the SQL server as well, so that we can make a movement now, right? Now I will go here, and this particular database is there in the cloud, right? So which integration runtime we will use? Auto resolve integration runtime, right? Simple. So I will go to link service. I will select Azure SQL Server now here, and then click continue, and then select my subscription, select my server name, select my database name, select the SQL authentication, give the username, which is cloud, and then give the password, which is suppose SQL 4, and then test connection. Okay, connection successful. But now suppose if I remove the IP, okay, remove the whitelisted IP which I have given, then also if you check the connection, probably it will be successful or it will be failed as well, right? So that we can check now. Because we don't know how data factory is trying to reach out to that server, how data factory is trying to log into that server, where that we don't know, right? So we need to check, like I'm just showing you why this IP is important. So suppose if I remove it now, right? If I save it, then this IP is only allowed. Now if I check the connection, it might fail now. Okay, it is failing now because data factory is trying to reach to this server by this IP. Okay, data factory has a different IP because data factory is trying to reach the server by this IP, right? So if we whitelist this IP now, it will be okay. So add a firewall rule, whitelist this IP, which is 2042 136. Okay, so let me write it 20.142, sorry, 42 342.3.136. Similarly, I will allow here as well. Okay, and then if I save it, then if I test connection successful, right? So we allowed that IP as well of this link service. Okay, So those sort of things, generally in the company, you just whitelist that IP, right? Instead of whitelisting all the IP. But I am allowing all the IP so that I don't do this repetitive time, right? Now, if I am trying to hit it from Databricks, probably through the code, I need to whitelist the Databricks IP as well. So I don't want to do all of those things. So I'm just whitelisting all the IP here. You can give your link service name, then test connection, and then create the link service. Okay. I'm not creating it right now because I do have a link service for my SQL database which I will use. Okay, this is my link service. Use the auto result integration runtime and then created a link service, right? Any confusion till here, guys?
I'm good, Abhishek.
Okay, guys. So now we will understand this piece of moving the data from blob to SQL server, right? That we will understand because we do have a link service to blob, we do have a link service to synapse, and then we can perform this operation. Okay, so I'm going to author tab and then I will create a link service. Sorry, I will create a pipeline to perform this operation. So I will paste a copy data activity. And similarly, I will create a data set for the source, data sets for the sink, sources, data lake. So I will choose data lake here. Selecting the file, which file I want to move. So suppose I want to move department.csv, import schema as none. We will always select first row as a header and import schema as none, right? Because I want to make my first column as a header and import schema as none. So we are selecting that. In which case we will not select the import schema none option, that I will tell you, but for now we'll select always none. Now I am going to sync and I am considering my sync as SQL Server. So I will select SQL Server here. Sorry, Azure SQL Server here. Select the link service and then write the table right now. dvo dot suppose department O, for example, right? I do have a department table right now, so I'm considering no, right? And now currently this table is not present right now in my SQL database. If I go, this table is not present. So if I open the SQL database, if I open this, this department O is not present. Okay, department O is anyway not present. So right now there are two ways you can do it. Okay, so first of all, either you create a schema here, like, so anybody here who is not aware about schema, so please let me know. I am not aware about schema, right? Or anybody, so I feel everybody who is present here are some sort of like a warehousing experience. Anybody who is here doesn't know what is SQL, doesn't know what is schema, doesn't know what is like table. Anybody who is here who doesn't have any sort of this kind of a background, please let me know so that I can teach accordingly if you don't know about it. Okay, I feel silence as no. If you feel that if you don't know something, please let me know. But I think that we know about what is schema, right? So here schema is all about what is the table structure. So suppose for department O, we don't have any table, right? So we don't have a structure as well. So either you create the structure first and then move the table, or else what you can do, you can select the auto create table option. What it will do for you, it automatically creates the table if it is not exist in the source schema, which is not supported when stored procedure is used as a right behavior. So let it be the other sentence, you can ignore that for now. It automatically creates the table if source schema is not present. Okay, so if schema is not present, it will create a schema for you. Okay, so for us the schema is not present, so auto create table option will create a schema for you, right? So I am debugging it right now because I want to create a schema. Okay, done. So table got moved. You can come here and then check if it is moved. Yeah, this is the table, right, which it got moved. And also if you see, this table got moved with the n varchar schema, right? But suppose if you say that Abhishek n varchar, I don't want this n varchar, I want the proper data type. Okay, so generally whenever the data factory is moving the data from data lake, it will always and always move with the auto create n varchar schema itself. If you want to define it properly, then you can define it. But if you are moving the data directly from some sort of SQL server, okay, so my source, so suppose here your source is SQL, your sink is also SQL, then it will take the schema from the source how it is and then create the table for you by using auto create table option. But if your source is data lake, then it will create with the n varchar schema itself. Okay, now you can define the schema as well. Suppose I can write the schema as create table like department P, and then I can write suppose department ID as integer and name as varchar 50. Okay, and create the table. Done. Now I can come here, I can select my new table here. And then run this. Done. So here this table is now, yeah, So it's like moved, and also you can see this data type, right? With the proper data type. Okay. Any confusion till here, guys? Now, suppose I don't want to move the table, move the table with this name. Suppose my name is department, not department ID, my name is ID, for example, right? So instead of department ID, I want to make it ID. Okay. Now, if you want to move the data to this table, then you need to use the mapping feature in that case. Okay, so you can select department L here. I'm giving you that as a homework. Okay, so what you can do is you can select the department as L here, right? Over here, you select the L, and then it will give an error to you. So you come here and then import the schema and then map it, and then it will be done. Okay, so it's just a homework for you guys, which you can try. Okay. The homework is to change the column and then try to move it using mapping feature. Okay, it will work. Now, uh, suppose if I run the pipeline again, suppose like you have scheduled the pipeline and then you are running it day to day, right? That is what you are doing. Suppose you are running the pipeline daily. So if you run the pipeline, if you run this copy data activity again, then what will happen? So yeah, so here if I go and if I see the data over here. So see, here 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 9, 14, and then again 14, right? So data got duplicated here. So in that case, what you need to do, you need to truncate. So suppose like you have said, you have scheduled the pipeline at 10 p.m. daily, and what it will do, it will go to the source. It will take the data for you, and then it will move to the sink, right? Daily it is doing that. So you don't want to create the duplicate data because like suppose somebody so this is your source and this is your SQL. You are using data factory and you created the pipeline to take the whole data and then move it here, right? So today you have some data, so you moved it. But tomorrow somebody came and changed this data and added one row, for example, added one row. Then you don't want to take the whole data and then reinsert it, right? So that will create duplicate for you. That is what is happening. So how to alter that? Okay. So in that case, what you can do the truncate and load. You can truncate the whole table and then load it again. So here you can write truncate table dbo dot department o, and that will basically truncate your table because in data like it's just overwrites, but here it reinserts, right? So for that case, we need to truncate the table and then reinsert the data. Done. So if I refresh this now, 1 second, still there is a duplicate. Yeah, so I truncated P. I haven't truncated O. Sorry. Let me truncate this same table and then let me run it. Done. So if you come here, if you refresh this, yeah, so you are able to see not the duplicated data, right? Any confusion till here, guys? Anybody has any confusion? Okay, now suppose we don't want to load the whole data, right? So somebody went there and updated the data, and we are just interested to update that data itself instead of updating the whole table, and that can be done by upsert option. So let me show you. So suppose someone says that, yeah, so like, yeah, so this human resource became HR, for example, and then we added one more data, which is like 15th AWS, for example, right? Now I am interested in updating these two data points only, right? So what I can do now is I can go here and then I can go to sync and remove this truncate. I don't want to truncate this time. I want to do the upsert, and I want to do the upsert based on department ID column. So it will match the department ID wherever the department ID is already there. It will update it, and if it is not there, it will insert it. Okay. So we are doing the upsert based on department ID now. So it will generally been used in case of delta load. Okay. So we'll learn full load. We'll also learn delta load. It's generally been done in case of delta load. So if you go here, if you refresh this, you'll understand it is HR and also AWS is updated, right? So this is how you can you can use the mapping feature, and also you can do the upsert. You can use the pre-copy script. You can use the auto create table option. Okay. And also you can change the column structure and then also load the data using mapping feature. Okay. So what are the, like, I think you guys can try all of this. So I will write it in the notepad. So first of all, make a SQL server, basic version, very important, basic version. Okay. Sorry, make a SQL server and create SQL database, that too basic version. Okay, and then move uh, and then um, create the firewall rule, create the firewall rule, right? And then create the firewall rule for your server, and then what you can do is create link service for SQL database, then use uh, auto create to move data, right? And then create the schema and move the data. Then you can try uh, change the column, change the column, and move data using mapping feature, move data using mapping feature, right? And then use pre-copy script and also try upsert. Okay, all of this you can try, and then we will and then that's all, right? So these are the things which you need to try, and then we'll learn the things tomorrow going forward. Now if you have any doubt, you can ask me, or else that's all for the today's class. And I suggest Caroline and Isha, if you can stay there for some times, we'll sort out the access related issue for Caroline, and also I will see what difficulty Isha is facing regarding the MS SQL connection. I will send the homework in the chat, and then also I will upload the recording. See you then. Thank you so much.